finish from his first 13 Grand Prix. Third place to Mika Häkkinen's ever-improving McLaren, just 3.4 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi's Benetton. But a dispiriting fifth place for Damon Hill, who finished only 0.7 of a second ahead of Gerhard Berger. So now Hill's championship lead over Villeneuve is down to 13 points, with 30 still to be won from the last 3 races. Michael Schumacher goes past Jean Alesi to third, with Häkkinen and Coulthard staying 5th and 6th. Williams, of course, have already won the Constructors' Championship by a massive margin and will doubtless score more points in 2 weeks' time at the steeped in history Monza track for the Italian Grand Prix.